Good morning everybody and welcome to this webinar on weldments for furniture design with me, Ed Hawkins. Okay, we'll go through to SolidWorks now and we'll start taking a look at how we can actually draw out pieces of furniture in SolidWorks. Now the first thing I want to do is actually create a reference plane for the top height of the unit that I'm going to draw. So that wants to be about 810, so we're going to add that in like so, and then we're going to form a sort of layout sketch, a rough sort of overall size of the unit on this top plane as well. So we'll go ahead and we'll just draw a rectangle out like so, and we'll add some dimensions onto this. So it wants to be 1450 wide by 450 deep, and that is the overall size, or the size of the top section that we're going to put on. So I'm just going to hide that plane out of the way. We'll just edit this sketch one more time actually, and I just want to put a central line in here as well like so. Now the top of this piece of furniture is actually going to be made out of rails, so just standard sort of stock size timber with some inserted panels on the inside. So using weldments we can actually leverage what's called a structural member, but typically you know, we can use this for steel or timber here. Now I've got a folder on my structural member section here called wood metric, and we're going to use a hardwood size, and that actually wants to be 60 by 25. You'll see when I start adding these to the items here, or to the sketch lines, that actually places that profile along the line that I've drawn. Now we've got a couple of corner treatments here that's worth mentioning. We can have them all mitered, or alternatively have them butted together. I actually want to adjust some of these butts individually, so here at this corner I'm going to change it to the second style, and you'll see that overhangs there a little bit better, and the same at this end here, so we've got the longer rails running along the front. I'm going to add another new group in here and place a structural member on the centre. Now this one is located at its edge, but I actually want it to be positioned centrally, so I'm just going to click the locate profile button and position that in the middle like so. And we can click the green tick there, and you'll see that we have those rails positioned as we would want them for the frame that we're creating. The next stage to this is to produce the inserted panels, so I'm just going to make myself normal to the top here and start a sketch on any of the faces of those members. I'm going to draw a rectangle out, sort of overlapping a little bit here, because what I actually want to do is have this panel fit into those members there. Just going to add some dimensions to control the offsets here, so it wants to be 10 mil all the way around, so we'll just add those in like so, and we'll do some for the middle as well. And I'm just going to do the two for the outside and the middle on the right hand side as well. I can actually form the two panels at the same time, and then I'm going to add a collinear relationship between these lines so that their position is controlled by the 10 mil dimension here. Now what I want to do is just use a simple extrude, and I'm going to extrude into the rails here, and that end condition that we want is going to be a offset from surface. So we want to offset from the bottom surface by a distance of 12 mil. So we may not know the panel size that we want, but we know the offset that we want to maintain. An important point when using weldments is that the merge results option is automatically toggled off, so it will not merge members together. So even though we're doing a standard extrude here, what's actually going to happen is it's not going to merge that to the rails on the outside, which is exactly what we want. So, you know, quite a nice thing that we don't have to toggle off there. So I've added those internal panels on. We actually want a sort of lip running around the inside of the rail, so I'm just going to do that as a simple sort of cut. So we're just going to sketch on this top face, draw those sketches out. Again, we can do both sides at the same time. What I'm also going to do here is very quickly just hide these two bodies, just to make it a little bit easier for me to select the edges that I want to select. I'm going to add that same collinear relationship between these two lines here as well, and then build in the offset that we want for that little recess, which is 4 mil. So we'll just add that to each of the sections here, like so. we'll just pull that line out a little bit there just to make it easier to grab what we need to grab. And then just finally over on this side here. Now we've got that sketch complete, we'll just exit that sketch and we'll bring back those two bodies that we had hidden so we can see what we're going to cut. I'm just going to pre-select that sketch and use my extruded cut. Now at the moment if I cut this, it's going to cut out the inside of the rectangle, which isn't what I want, so I'm going to click flip side to cut and then set the depth to 4mm because that's how deep I want it to go. And then just down the bottom here in the feature scope, it's on selected bodies, and I only want to cut those two items. So if we click the green tick there, you'll see that I've got this nice little recess running around that top section. Now at the moment the two bodies interfere with each other, so if I just section this, you'll see that we've got an interference between that face and this face. So we'll go about, or what we'll do now is sort that out, and we're going to use a tool called Indent to do that. So Indent is a great tool for this type of thing, certainly good for furniture design. What we need to do is select the target body, which we've got a few here, but we'll select this one first, and then the two bodies that we want to use as cutting components to remove material. So you'll see it highlights in yellow there, showing us the preview of what we're going to get. So I'm going to add that on. We'll add all the indents on that we need to, and then we'll take a look at what it's done afterwards. So again, I'm just going to select that body and these two and toggle on the cut option. The middle one requires both of those two to cut that one as well, so we'll cut those out, and then we've just got a couple of individual ones to do for the outside rails, like so. Okay, so if we section through this now, you'll be able to see that what we've actually got is non-intersecting bodies. So if I actually hide this one here, you'll see that we've got that recess cut out in that channel now, which is exactly what we want. Interestingly enough, within the indent tool you can actually, if we just modify this feature here, you can actually set you know, an overlap or a clearance, if you will, onto those bodies as well. So if you did want to maintain a bit of clearance, you can add that in there. Okay, so that's our top section drawn out. So the next thing we need to do is start thinking about how we're going to form the framework that sits underneath this. We're actually going to have two doors either side with some cupboards and then some drawers on the inside. So I'm just going to flip over and look at the underside of this here. And then on the Weldments toolbar, we're going to start a 3D sketch. So the first thing I'm going to do is draw a rectangle out. And you'll see at the moment that I'm currently in the XY plane, but if you use your tab key, you can change which plane you're sketching in. So I've switched myself over to the ZX plane, which is the plane the underside face is on. Now, there's no relationship being created between this sketch and that face, so I'm just going to select those two entities and add an on-plane relationship, which means that that rectangle is now on that underside plane. And if we just flip ourselves over underneath here, I'm just going to move that into position a little bit better. And then what we'll do is we'll start to dimension that up. I'm just going to turn my sketch relations on here so you can see what's happening as well. So the first thing I need to do is just specify the offset. So here we want a 40mm, at the front edge we want 40mm, the side we want 40, and at the back edge we want that to be 20. Now you'll see 3D sketches are sometimes a little bit more difficult to define. You'll see normally in a 2D sketch that would be enough information to define this sketch here, but what we need to do is just specify in which axis this line is going, and that's going along the X. You can see just down the bottom here there's a nice reference triad for you to use. So I'm going to say that's going along X, and that will fully define that sketch for us. So the next thing we need to do is draw out where our legs are going to be. So again, you'll see here we're in the ZX plane. Clicking tab will adjust us to the XY, which is where we want to be, and I can draw out my 4 legs like so. If you actually maintain that yellow line as a snap, it will create that relationship of a long Y for you automatically. Now these legs, I'm not going to dimension those. I'm going to add a relationship between the bottom point and the top plane to control their height. If If you remember, we actually added a reference plane right at the start, and that's where we were sketching the top section on. I'm going to add an equals relationships to all those legs to maintain their height is the same. Then what we're going to do is we're just going to draw a line all the way around this, because we've actually got some kind of plinth running along the bottom, so we'll draw that out like so. Just make sure each of these lines is running in the direction that it needs to, so that's a long Z, and then we're just going to dimension that up from the top there at 100. We've also got, as I said to you before, we've got drawers in the middle and cupboards either side, so what we need to do now is just figure out where that split's going to be. So I'm going to draw a line straight down here and here, and I'm just going to use a construction line here just to give us the same at the back edge as well. So we'll just draw those two down like so. We'll just make sure these are running along Z here just to straighten those up, and then we'll continue by putting in the lines at the back here as well. So we're basically building our sort of frame out of sketch geometry. Now what we need to do is just dimension those splits, and they want to be 475 millimeters on either side. So you can see our sketch is fully defined, so we're going to exit that, and we're going to go ahead now and add in some structural members to that. So again, using the Weldment tool here, I've actually got some leg profiles saved, which are 42 by 42, so I'm going to pick the first entity and locate the profile. That actually wants to be centrally located there, so we'll just click on that center point, and then each subsequent leg we don't need to position because it will maintain that for us. If we click the green tick there, you'll see that we've got those legs in position now. We have also got a top rail at 20 by 20 and a bottom rail at 20 by 20. So again, using the structural member tool here, we'll go in, we'll select that profile, and we'll position the top one. We need to locate where that's going to go, so that's going to be the upper corner there. And the bottom one is going to be slightly different, so what we're going to do is add in a new group and select this line and then locate that individually. Looks like it's actually in the right position there, so I'm just going to say OK. Now at the moment these members intersect with the leg, so when that happens you can use a tool called trim here. So we're just going to select the bodies we need to trim, which is the top and bottom rail, and the bodies we want to use to trim them, so that can be the two legs there. You'll see you get some call outs here that tell you which item you're going to keep and whether items are going to be removed, so we'll see that a bit later on. So I've now trimmed those down to that leg there. So just to move us on to the next stage here, again we want to use a structural member. We need to put all the sort of rails on for the side panels, so they actually want to be 40 by 20s, so we'll select 40 by 20, pick where we want to place it. You can also rotate these as well. We actually want to rotate that by 90 degrees and then position it on the inside like so. I can pick any connecting lines here, which I've got 3. Any non-connecting lines you'll need to add a new group, so we're going to go ahead and select the top item here. We'll rotate that one by 90 and locate that on the inside. And then we can pick the other lines like so, and we also need a couple at the back as well, so we're going to add another new group and position those two like so, and then just locate those centrally about that back face, and then we'll just click the green tick, and you can see we've now got all our structural members on there. Members that are created within the same structural member feature will trim against each other, but any that won't. So over here you'll see we've got an intersection between that leg again. So what I'm going to do is use the trim tool, select the bodies that I want to trim, which are the bottom 3 and the top 3, and then select the bodies that I want to trim them against, which are the 4 legs. So I'll grab hold of each of those, click the green tick, and we can trim those up like so. Now what we need to do is put another couple of rails, but in slightly different orientation, on the front and back lines. So using the same profile here, I'm going to select these 4 lines like so. Just going to rotate that profile 90 degrees and then locate it on that front edge like so, and just click the green tick. Now these 2 that I've added on the back here are actually well out of position, but what I didn't want to do was create another sketch line on this face here just to position those. So I've actually just added them on there, and we're going to use a tool called Move Copy Body now to reposition them. So what we can do is select the bodies that we want to move, which is these 2, and then we can actually use like an assembly mate relationship. So I can say that I want that back face mated with that face there, and then add it and click the green tick, and we've repositioned those members like so. I'm just going to hide this sketch so it's out of the way for us as well. Now if we take a look at the underside, these members aren't actually the full length, they need to go up to this face. So I'm going to use trim again, but if you've toggled on the option to allow extension, what we can do is actually extend these in the same tool. So I'm going to select those 4 members and choose a face to extend them to, and you'll see that they extend in length to meet that face. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use the trim to actually trim these members. So I'm going to select these 2 here and trim them to a body, which is this one, and it will notch those to fit in like so. We're going to do the same thing on the front 2, but we actually need to trim those to a couple of different members, so the bottom one and the top one, and we'll click the green tick there. And if we just isolate this so you can see what's going on, you'll see it has been notched out to meet that like so. What we may need to do with these front ones actually, on reflection, if we take a look at this isolate here, you'll see it's actually notched out, but what we really want to do is add in an additional structural member, which is this top one, to trim to as well, just so we end up with that type of arrangement rather than what we had before. Okay, so we've got all those trimmed up. We can start putting on our side panels now. In fact, before we do that, we've got some drawer supports just to put in on this section here, just to show where they are. So what I'm going to do is just spin round and start a sketch on this back face, and just using a normal 2D sketch, I'm just going to position 3 lines like so, just making sure that they're horizontal. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to dimension those now. So we've got the bottom one to there, which is 210. Got this one, which is 425, and the top one, which is 530. Okay, so we can exit that sketch now, and we'll just use that to position our structural members. These are actually 20 by 20, so we'll just select that profile, pick each of the entities there, and then locate them. So it actually wants to be that back edge there, that back corner. Click the green tick. You'll see, because of how we've drawn the sketch line from the inside edge, that they're actually already the right size, so we can just hide that sketch and move on to the next bit. Now, while we're using Weldments for furniture design, we actually get something called a cut list, and this will become more important as we go along. And if you look in here, you'll see each of the bodies that we've created is included in that cut list. We'll come back to that a little bit later and look at what that does for us. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is just create a side panel that fits in this section here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a sketch on this face and draw a rectangle out. We'll use the same 10mm offset that we had previously. So we're going to specify between here and here that we've got 10mm. Between here and here we've got 10mm. Top and bottom 10mm, and over on this opposing side here we've got 10mm as well. So we've positioned our sketch. What I'm going to do here as well is I'm just going to add on a reference entity to show me the overall length. You may, depending on your system settings, get this message box about how this dimension is controlling the sketch. I actually want to leave it driven, so it's a result of the 10mm offset, so I'm just going to say OK, and I'm going to add on another dimension to show me what the width is as well, so we can see that panel is going to be 650 by 368. If I exit this sketch now, I'm going to use my extrude tool and just flip the direction of that. What I actually want to do now is specify an offset for where I start this sketch from. So just at the top here, instead of starting it flush with the rails where I've sketched on, I want to start it with an offset of 10mm. I'm just going to reverse that so it goes the right way. If we just look in a bit more detail here, you'll see how far that's gone. We want a 5mm panel, and we also want to, in fact, what we're actually going to do here is specify a 5mm offset, and we're also going to change this to a offset from surface, so we don't have to control the thickness. We're going to specify that it's offset from that surface by 5mm. If we click the green tick, you'll see we've got that panel in like so, and we'll go ahead and again use the indent tool to cut out the sections that we need to cut out. So our target body here is going to be this one, and that's going to be our cutting component. Same for this bottom rail, the front leg here, and the top rail as well. So again, if I just hide this body here, we'll see that that's cut out quite nicely for us. So just coming back to my cut list, we can show that body again. So we'll mirror that over in a moment, but we'll do the back panel in very much the same way. So again, if we just sort of make ourselves normal to this, start a sketch, we can draw out our rectangle. Again, add in our 10mm offsets here. Like so. What we could actually do if we wanted to is put in the middle panel as well, so we'll draw that in now. Again, add that collinear relationship as you've seen before, just to mean you only have to dimension this inside offset at 10. And then we can use our extrude here, again specifying the offset of 5 internally, and our up to surf or offset from surface of 5 as well. Just make sure it's going the correct way, which it looks like it is, so we'll add that in like so. So now that we've got those two panels drawn, again we can use our indent, so we'll use this top rail first and we'll select those two and cut out both sections. Select the bottom rail, select both panels and use that to cut. Select the internal one and the two panels and cut that. Now we need to select the leg and this panel and cut that, and we'll do that rail last as well. So here on that rail and this panel, and we'll cut that out like so. Now what we can do is mirror across the two that we know are the same. So because of where we positioned our rectangle at the start, we can leverage mirror. So here we're going to mirror this body and this body over to the opposing sides, which give us the two panels there as well, and then we can use our indent tool again to do these. So here we'll pick the first leg first and cut that. We'll do the top rail next, and the bottom rail, and then this back leg here we can actually say that we want these two to cut that like so, and again at the bottom here we want this bottom rail cut by that, top rail cut by that, and the internal rail as well cut at the same time. Okay, so we've produced our panels like so. So the next thing we need to do is just build up maybe some of the internal panels now. Okay, so just flipping this on the underside here, if I'm just going to make myself normal too, what we actually want to do is put a panel in between these two to simulate that shelf. So I'm just going to sketch on that bottom face there and start my rectangle like so. Then what we'll do is we're actually going to give this a little bit of an offset here. We'll specify that in a moment. But what I want to do is have that panel intersect like so. So I'm going to give that 5mm there, 5mm there, and we want that to be 10mm overall. And we'll just specify that we want that to be, we'll probably do that 5mm as well, like so. We've got a little bit of a line still between those two, so we'll trim that off like so. And we'll do the same at the bottom end here. So again, just drawing out this sort of tongue arrangement, give it a couple of sizes. So it wants to be 5, 5 and 10. And then we'll just trim off that little bit there as well. So if we just move ourselves around so we can see what's going on, we want to extrude that panel up to a surface, which is the top one, like so, and click the green tick. So we've now got that panel drawn in, but again we're going to use our indent tool just to cut those two bits out. So we want to cut that out like so, and again same here as well. Now what we can do is just again using mirror, we can mirror about that same right plane and select that body to mirror it around to the other side, and then again produce our indents over here as well. Okay, so we're looking pretty good so far. I think it's probably worth taking a look at what I was talking about with the cut list just now. We've got quite a few members in here. Now you can see that it carries a running total of how many items are actually in our design at the moment, of which there's 35. But what's really useful is if I right click on this and say update, what it will do is it will categorize each of these members into its own folder. So any items that are similar, exactly the same size and with exactly the same cutouts will be categorized into their own individual item. So you'll see here that we've got a running, almost like a bill of materials, if you will, for each of these items. If we just save this now, we'll just call it part 2. We'll go ahead and produce a drawing from this. So once we're through at drawing level, we can drag across our front view, maybe a top view and a right view like so. In fact, we'll put an isometric view on as well. We'll come back to our view palette here and drag on that isometric like so. Maybe we show that in colour, although I haven't actually added any colours onto that yet. The information that is sort of categorized by the cut list can be leveraged at drawing level by a weldment cut list. So very much like a bill of materials, we just select a view and then place down our cutting list. And what this will show us is the size of the profile that we've used and also its length. So really useful for actually working out cut lists for the items that you produce. We can even use the auto balloon scheme here actually to show us which item relates to what, which is great. So here we might have a few bits and pieces that we need to tidy up, but generally it'll do a pretty good arrangement of that. Maybe in addition to that, if we go back to our part, some of the new functionality that we had inside of 2012 is to add exploded views for multi-body solids, which is exactly what we've got here. So maybe I want to just create an exploded view just to highlight this in a bit more detail, so we can select our bodies, move those up, and maybe we just want to add, you know, just to show how this actually fits together here, we could pull this apart. So maybe for manufacture or something like that, you want to show how you're actually going to make this. We can just pull these items apart like so. Once that exploded view is saved, if we go back through to the drawing, we'll just get rid of this isometric view for the time being, and then put on, once we've refreshed our view palette, our isometric explode here. So again, we can show that through at drawing level should we need to. So hopefully you can see that using Weldments for furniture design is quite a nice thing to be able to do. I certainly find it quite useful. Just to show you, just finished off, here is that unit completely finished off there, which is really nice. So you can actually put your drawers in and things like that, make it look quite good with some appearances of wood. Okay, as I say, you know, that's a really nice way for us to use SolidWorks for Weldments. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please get in touch. This webinar has been recorded and will be available through our website. And please also take a look at some of the future webinars that we've got coming up, which you can sign up for through our website. So if anybody's got any questions, I can answer those now. So somebody's asked which version of SolidWorks is Weldments available in. It's actually available in all versions of SolidWorks, so anybody, you know, even with standard, you can sort of leverage this functionality if you need to. Okay, doesn't look like we've got any other questions, so thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again next time.